we're here today to talk about offensive situations and the different things that come up in the game when you're on offense. Um, Most people understand downs and distance, field zones, but we're going to talk about those and also talk about some unique situations that come up in the game and give you a chance to maybe think about some things you can practice and you can do to help your team succeed. Now, when we're talking about situational football and offense, the first thing we're going to talk about is down and distance. And most people understand this. Most people have an idea and a plan for this. But I'll tell you what we did and what my suggestions would be. We always tried to have 2 plays per hash per suggestion here. So for extra long, for medium, for short. Now, when we got to 1 to go, we didn't care as much about the hash because usually in that situation, you're just trying to get the first down and there's not a huge difference between the right or left hash. But I do advise you to practice on the hash in the middle of the field, what plays you're going to run in these scenarios and put the kids in those exact same spots. A common mistake that I see people making is practicing a lot of their practice taking place in the middle of the field and not moving the ball from hash to hash, which can change really some of the angles, some of the throws. When you're going into extra long yardage, and we can kind of start there. If you're talking about extra long yardage, you're really talking about any play that's double states what the refs will call it, over 10 yards. At this point, you kind of got 2 options. You can either go for the first down, throw the ball 11 or more yards down the field. However, if you're 3rd and 14 and throw it 14 or 15 yards downfield, and if you catch it, it's a first down. Or you can do something a little more conservative, assuming that if this doesn't work out, we're going to punt. So you can run draw, you can throw screens. We were always a little more apt to throw screens. I like the slow screens, jailbreak screens, any kind of the little bubble screen, any really kind of screen pass where I thought if we could catch them blitzing, trying to make a huge play, we could get over their head and maybe still get the first down. And if we didn't, then it was a fairly safe play to get you to the 4th down situation. So, when you get in those extra long situations, you immediately got to ask yourself, are we going for it or are we not? And I always had maybe a play for both. If we talked about having 2 plays per hash, we may have had 1 play that was going for it and 1 that was screened. So if we're on the left hash, we may have thrown some kind of deep comeback or some kind of post or some kind of isolated route. And then the other play from that hash might have been some kind of slow screen. So then we got in that scenario and I picked which one we wanted to run. You go to long yardage, which would be 7 to 10. These are, I thought, some of the best chances for you if you're an offensive play caller to really make an impact on the game. And I think on defense, the same can be true as these are the plays you have to win. If you're 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, the odds technically are stacked against the offense. But if you have a great play and you can execute and you can keep that drive going, your chances of winning a football game go up tremendously just on that 1 play. So, from 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, something like that, you're going to be a little more pass heavy, but I think you got a lot of options because most balls completed are going to get you the first down. So some of the scat routes, the spacing routes, some of the stuff that might or might not equate to a first down in extra long situations will probably work in long yardage. So, your quarterback understands blitz protection, and if you can kind of get the ball out when they bring heat, this is a great way to pretty much most completions are going to equate to a first down. So I really thought, you kind of earned your money a little bit in those downs. When you get into medium yardage, I think people would think that the further we go down this list, the easier it is to call plays in them. And to some degree, that's not true. I always thought medium yardage was one of the toughest ones to deal with. And medium yardage can really be something where you got the whole playbook open and you're not really sure what to call, to be honest, because you had these 2 plays per hash. Well, then the way the game's going, that's not working. Maybe that's just not going how you thought it would, and you have to go off script a little bit. I felt like in medium yardage was one of the times it was easy to go off script because you kind of were guessing. When you have the whole playbook available, it actually makes it a little harder to call offensive plays. You can run the ball, you can throw it, you can pretty much call anything. And that was one of those things I think you had to make a good call. You had to put your good players in good situations. It was stuff you have done from the correct hash and all that, and had to do it within 10 seconds. It can be challenging. When you get to short yardage, I thought this was a time where, we were always going to have a time where we could throw the ball to this. We could play action if we were going to take some kind of shot, try to fool them. This was a good time to do it. Usually going to get man coverage. You're usually going to get, if you're a running team, if you're a team that can run the ball at least well, they're going to assume you're running the ball here. This is a good time to take a shot if you think you can get away with that. But it's also a time to run your base play. I would not be getting stopped on 3rd and 2 or 3 without not running something I knew we were good at, something that's kind of one of our base stuff. So we were going to stay with our base stuff here. Maybe even, what we would do is maybe this is the time of the game where we would implement a new motion or we trade a tight end, or we would do something different to run that same old play we've been running, but maybe with a little different look, just to try to make it look a little different, but still get the first down and then play the next play. When you get down to 1 to go, I think at that point, you're not really, it's not that you couldn't throw the ball. You totally can. And it's good to have a play that you like out of that situation if you think you can do that. But now the yard to go is so short that it's not really so much about fooling as it is just executing and maybe shortening your splits on the line and getting off the football and covering up gaps. So whatever play you like there, whatever one of your best plays is, you can execute that for the yard you need for the first down. Now I think this is something that hopefully if you're watching this, you can get something out of, because I always thought one of my advantages as a play caller was understanding this. When do you treat 3rd down and 4th down different? Teams that know me and had worked with me know that we went for it a lot on 4th down, especially in our, once we crossed the 50 or so, within reason, we were probably going to go for it on 4th down, because I just felt like in high school ball, the advantage of scoring is so much greater than what it costs to try to go for it. So now, where does that fit into this down and distance discussion? So let's just say it's 3rd and 7, and it's 3rd and 7 on the minus 25 yard. Well, that's 3rd and 7. And if you're the offensive play caller, if we don't execute this 7-8 yards, we're going to punt. Now let's go to the plus 25, and it's 3rd and 7. And now you got to know, before you call that 3rd down play, you've got to know, are we going to kick the field goal if this doesn't work? Or are we going to go for it if it doesn't work? And if the answer is you're going to go for it, then I would treat that like 2nd and 7. I'd be running some base plays, so anything I liked on 2nd and 7, because it's not really 3rd and 7 if you're going to go for it. So I see a ton of people making this mistake where, say it's 3rd and 10 and they want to throw to come back and it's incomplete, and then they go for it on 4th and 10, and they really essentially are going to have to run the same play twice in a row, because they just took, in my opinion, if they knew they were going to go for it on 4th and 10, they would have been better off on 3rd down to have called more of a 2nd and 10 call, gotten some yards, made that 4th down call a little easier, or maybe converted it that way. So I think if you can kind of understand that concept, it's the same way with the short and 1 to go. If it's 3rd and 1 and you're going for it on 4th and 1, that's a great time to throw it deep. Play action, throw it as far as you can. As long as you have faith that you're not going to get sacked or turn the ball over there, take a shot, knowing that on 4th and 1 we'll go for it. Same way if it's 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, and you're going to go for it, that's a great time to try to confuse them or trick somebody. So know the difference. If you're the play caller and you talk to the head coach ahead of time, I was the head coach and a play caller for a long time, so it was a little easier conversation to have with myself. But I just feel like that's a huge advantage if you understand, is this 3rd down we're about to call really a 3rd down, or is this really the 2nd down type play, and we're going to get that all or nothing play on the next down. In high school ball, that can really be a weapon if you understand that this whole philosophy and that mindset of making that happen. The next thing we're talking about is field zones. Some people divide the field up in a ton of different places, and look, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not here to knock that. I just didn't want. I'm not going to talk about every little piece of the field. Most of the field is open, then you can call whatever you want. We'll start with the backed up zone. You know, if you're on the -5, -7 or so in the end, you're backed up. Say, what do you call differently? Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that you necessarily call stuff much differently. No plays are designed to lose yards, so you obviously don't want to go backwards. But at the same time, you need to get a first down here, and to some degree, this is when, kind of like with short yardage, I might would have thought in this backed up area, now let's use some motion, let's trade the tight end, let's do something to try to get them, off balance a little bit so we can get off our goal line here so we can start just getting back into the open field. Something to keep in mind when you are backed up is that it's a great time to hard count. If you're on the 2 and you hard count them and you jump off sides, then of course you only go back to the 1. It's not much different. But if they jump, then it gets you off the goal line. So great time to hard count them down there. And then find something to be aware, find something to get you off the goal line. And, be aware that defensive coordinators and defensive play callers are going to be excited about you being backed up and sometimes be a little over aggressive. And if you can get loose, sometimes you see some big plays coming offensively from down there because of some over aggressiveness on the defense's part. But when you get off the goal line, to save time, we're going to just assume the minute you're off the goal line and feel comfortable, all the way till you get to the red zone with the red area, which would be like around the 25 or the 20, I don't know how you want to look at it. All of that is just open field, man. You just call whatever you think will work. I don't think you're too restricted by the field zone at that point. When you get into the red area, you are restricted again because the back of the end zone is as deep as you can throw it, and that kind of changes some things, changes how people play defense. And so now you got to get back into a mindset of, where are we and what are we going to do? We always we ran a lot of bunch stuff, and I liked a lot of bunch stuff in the red zone, not because it's a better formation in the red zone than any other formation, just because I thought it was a good time where we kind of changed the pace and did something different. And so when we got in the red area, we tried to get in a bunch a lot. And, the bunch allows you to run some different routes that are usually work well in the red area. And, of course, you can run the ball with some good edges when the safeties are down a little lower because they don't have to cover as much over the top. So I'm not really suggesting you should run bunch in the red zone. I am suggesting that you should have something that you kind of like that, when we get down there, we'll kind of pull this out. So when you get in, if you're going to talk offense, which is a whole nother course we could talk about, but I'm a big fan of the motion shifts, changing the formation a lot with a lot of this very few amount of plays. And if we kind of did that based on some field zones. So if we were backed up, we were probably going to go heavy formation. We're going to trade the tight end. We're going to go motion. And then if we were in the red zone, we might go into a bunch set. We might still do, something like that. Now, when we called the touchdown zone or TD zone, when you get into inside the 3 or 4, when you're now you got to kind of change the formation. You really got to change your mindset of what you're trying to accomplish. And then there's only one goal at that time, and that's score touchdown. So you might go big personnel, some kind of heavy set. We can go foot to foot on the offensive line, just getting off the football, giving us lanes to get in the end zone. And then my advice on that is understand who you got. I mean, I've really seen some kids are just way better than others down there on the goal line at just finding a way to slip in and get in the end zone. So, kind of keep your eye open to who can do that. It may not always be – you got 3 good running backs, it may be the second best one that is really good down there. I mean, it doesn't have to be that way. It's just one of those things that is kind of a skill to be able to, when those foot-to-foot splits and you're just getting a lot of down blocks and the kid just kind of find the crease and slide in the end zone because that's what you're going for. With the different situations you'll see in the game, you'll see a swing play. A swing play could be what we would call something that happened after a turnover. So our defense, in this case, we're talking about offense. Our defense just made a huge play. Maybe it was a 4th down and we stopped them. Maybe we got an interception. Maybe we caused a fumble. Something big happened for us in a good way. And now we're going to take the field on offense. When that happens, if you're ready, that's a great time to attack, great time to throw your double pass, your halfback pass, your reverse, or just to throw a regular go, but give somebody a chance to make a play. Because the defense will be a little hanging their head. There's a sudden change. Their defense was not ready to come out on the field. They had to run out there and play, things like that, where you can take advantage of that if it's in the if you got it in the right setup. 2-point conversions, depending on how good your kicker is and what size high school you're at, or those things. This 2-point conversion can be very important, but 2-point conversion is just 4th and 3 from each hash. So we would have had a couple of plays on each hash, a couple plays in the middle, and had them ready. I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of just going for 2, but we did do some fake extra points, some muddle stuff. And then, of course, you find yourself in a game, you're down 28-20, you score, you got to go for 2. I mean, so that's something that kind of goes without saying. But my advice to you, based on what I've seen, is I don't know if a bunch of people practice that. I think people say that. They think they'll call a play that the kids know. But have you practiced it as a 2-point play? It's 4th down and 3 is basically what it is. You put the ball in the hash, you run your play, and because things are different. You tell that quarterback in high school ball that they don't get the 2 points for running it back. So you would never take a sack. Throw it in there, make something happen if it's a pass play. If it's a run play, you would never run out of bounds. It's a 4th down situation. Don't assume your kids know that stuff. Walk them through it. Put them in those situations in practice and make sure they understand. 4-minute offense. 4-minute offense is really about keeping the ball high and tight, make sure we don't go out of bounds, keeping the clock running, etc. So let me paint the picture for you for those that may not understand our terminology on this. 4-minute offense means we've got the ball and the lead. So it's 28-24, we're winning, 3, 4, 5 minutes left in the game. We've got the ball. Now, our goal is to move the football and not be conservative, not play, just a punt and play soft. Well, I never got on board with that. But, you do want to be smart. There is some just intelligent things you can do. And if you can tell your kids going out to start that series, hey, here we go. It's 4-minute offense here. Keep the ball high and tight, stay in bounds, things like that. And then it's on you, the play caller, to slow down. Some people I see them with a stopwatch and they're pointing at their quarterback, and that's fine too. Whatever your system is for eating up time, that's fine. But we always just, hard counted people, just stood there at the line of scrimmage. We were no huddle, signaled and all. So we just, until, we had somebody watching the clock, and we'd hard count them and we'd let as much time run off, and then I'd call the play. But since we did that in the regular part of the game anyway, I didn't feel like it was a big issue. I think when you try to drastically change the pace of the game, it sometimes makes it easy for you to go 3 and out and give them the ball right back. So I would just suggest in 4-minute offense that kids understood, keep, just a little extra ball security over anything else and staying in bounds. Just little things like that and understanding where you are in the game. Now, your 2-minute offense can really, obviously, win or lose you the game. If you catch yourself with the ball, now it's the opposite of what we just said with 4 minutes. We have the ball, but we are behind, not ahead. 28-24, we're losing. We got the ball. What are we going to do? What is your 2-minute offensive plan? Do you get in the same formation until something different happens? What is your plan? We would probably have gotten in the same formation based on the hash until we stopped the clock. So if we had an incompletion or an out of bounds, we might change the formation. But if we didn't, we try to line up in a similar formation so people can line up quicker. And then we had some base plays we were going to run. Just your base verticals, sprint out, run them. You run them. All your run game was there. And really anything you could do, but you needed to do it fast. And the kids need to understand the concept of, a NASCAR-like tempo, or however you guys call that, where every play is automatically running as fast as you can. And that puts you into the last play of the game. So let's say we've moved the football at a clip where we're getting close, and now we're toward the last play of the game. Now, do these scenarios come up annually? Absolutely not. You know, in a whole career, you might see each one of these once or twice. But you need to be prepared for them, because when they do come, they don't let you know that Monday or Tuesday they're going to come. You got to be ready to go every week. So now we've in 2-minute offensive mode. We've moved the football. We've gotten all the way down to where it's, 3-4 seconds left in the game. We got the ball on the 9-yard line. This is the last play of the game right here. What are we going to do? And we'd have our play. I mean, it would just be a play we would love from that hash and that yard line anyway. But we would run that play, and it's the same kind of situation. It's a do or die thing. Can't take a sack, can't go out of bounds, understand where you are in that point of the field. We'd probably run something like mesh or some variation of some spacing routes where we could get people maybe free if we were in that part of the field. Once you got into 11 to 20 yards, now it's a little harder to run your mesh and your scat and your spacing routes and some of the stuff you might like inside the 10. So still, if we're on the 14, 15-yard line and there's 4 seconds left and it's the last play of the game, what are you going to call? Now, listen, before I get into all these, make sure you understand I'm not advocating what play you should call. I really don't care. There's not one play that's necessarily better than others. But you need a plan. You need to have this listed. Y'all need to have practiced it. You need to have a plan for what are we going to do in these scenarios that are listed. That I am advocating for. What play or what plan you have is really up to you. You know what your kids can do. But don't go out there without a plan for each one of those on each hash. So when you get into that 11 to 20 yards, your options are kind of limited. If you can single up somebody and throw a fade into the end zone, that's usually a good play. If not, maybe some kind of inside go on the verticals or something. That's all the way probably from 30 and in. That's about your options. Can you get somebody singled up to just throw it down the field into the end zone and give them a chance? When you get into the 31 to 45 yards, now that's when we would have gone into more of what we would think of as a Hail Mary type play, where now we're going to take as long as we can to let everybody run down the field and then just throw it up and see if we can get a jump ball of sort. If you get past 45 yards, we always went into a desperation type pitch play where, you would throw maybe a curl or something, and he would pitch it to somebody who would run around and pitch it to somebody until we tried to score there. So once you got past 45 yards, it was really hard to, for our kids anyway, it was really hard to throw the Hail Mary and get it into the end zone. So, our luck is that we'd have thrown it and not caught it in the end zone and catch it at the 5 or something. It's doesn't do you a whole lot of good on that last play of the game. So if we got to where we didn't think the kid could throw it into the end zone, then we would go into the pitching around mode. And, that's not a great play, but gives you a chance. And if you're practicing it for the first time in the game, then it's probably not going to work. So I would do that in practice. I don't know if you have to do it weekly, but definitely every few weeks, have a name for that play, make sure the kids understand it, what we're trying to get accomplished. Now, if you want to kick a field goal, so now instead of it being 28-24, let's say it's 28-27, we get to that last play of the game and we need the field goal to win it. Now it really matters, do we have a timeout? Do we not have a timeout? Because if we have a timeout, then that's an easy one. We run whatever play, we get to the last play, 4 seconds, 3 seconds left. We call our timeout. We run the field goal team out there. We kick it through the uprights. We win. Everybody's happy, whatever. If you don't have a timeout, now you're really looking at what we would call a fire alarm field goal, where you've got to have that field goal team right here beside you. And the minute that play before is over, if the clock's running, we've got to run them out there and kick it and try to get that thing off before a clock runs out. Now, if you're at 4 seconds, you're not going to get it. But sometimes at 10, 11 seconds, if you run them out there, you can get them set and kicked. So, but again, that would only happen if you'd practiced it. So we would practice that at least once every few weeks. My advice for some of these strange last second play thing is pick one every week at least. I mean, I would do all of them in the preseason, so we had them all in, and then we would probably pick one every week to work on. So maybe once we're throwing the Hail Mary one week, the next week we're working on the desperation pitch play. The next week we're working on running the field goal team out with no timeouts, and then maybe back to the beginning. And, so you're getting that every few weeks. But it's just the idea of those kids understanding what you're expecting them to do, which gives you that chance. The last thing here is overtime. And, overtime rules are putting the ball in the 15, kind of like college puts it on the 25, but both teams get a possession. I don't think you got to go crazy with that. The calls are the calls. You pretend like you're in the red zone, you're on the 15 or the 9 or whatever yard line you're in. You just make those calls. But I think it's important that you show your team how overtime works. Don't be trying to tell them on the fly if you get caught in an overtime game. There should be an understanding of both teams are going to get the ball. So if we can make them, if we're getting the ball second, we can make them kick a field goal. We score a touchdown, we win. If we get a turnover, we score, we win. If we're going first, it's really important we score to put the pressure on them. They have to score touchdown. So, teach them that when you have some situational time at practice. Don't let all that just come up. And I think kind of one of the big things about this whole course is just understanding that we want you to have a plan for all these things, and we want you to not assume that your kids will understand this without you telling them, because I'm telling you, they will not. So if you think because you watch football and you understand that they've got to run the field goal team out at this point, or you're going to have to spike the ball here, or if you think they understand that without you having to practice it, you're very misguided. They don't. You've got to practice all these situations before you assume they can do them in the game. And I would have a system in place where I practiced them every so often. Some of them we practice weekly. Some of them we practice probably every few weeks. If you have any questions about that, specifically things we did, or, you want to talk about this further, you can always message us on Twitter, email, Facebook, Instagram. We got all that stuff. So we love to talk to you and help you any way we can. But that's our offensive situation list. Hopefully it was helpful for you. Hopefully you picked up at least something you can take with you. Like I said, if you have any questions or if there's any feedback you can give us, feel free to reach out. But thanks a lot.